The Willows in Winter by William Horwood, read by Richard Briers. The mole sat toasting his toes in front of the fire. The winter wind howled safely outside, sending occasional flurries of soot down his chimney. He was thinking that things were nearly perfect, but not quite. "I must not be uncharitable," he said to himself, though an uncharacteristic frown showed he was finding it difficult not to be. "I must not be unfriendly." He darted a glance across the hearth towards the cause of his ill temper, and looked away again. "I must be patient, I must put up with it, I must— Oh, bother!" The wind blew suddenly more violently all round the outside of his house, which was snug among the roots of a fallen oak tree, and an ember of the log that was burning brightly on his fire cracked and shot onto his rug and smouldered there. "Don't worry," said the unwelcome guest who sat in the chair opposite. "I'll move it." "I can do it myself, thank you very much," retorted the mole in a grumbly way, quite unlike his normal good-natured self. Oh, drat!" He shook his paw in momentary pain at the heat as he sought to pick up the ember. "Would you like a—" "No, I wouldn't," declared the mole vehemently. I would like— But he could not bring himself to say what he would like, which was to be left alone and snug in his cosy home, free to potter through the winter evening, free not to have to think about someone else. Mole scowled at the floor and at the little burn mark the ember had made in the rug, and did his best yet again to tell himself that really he was an uncharitable mole, and deserved none of the many good things life had brought him if he could not show a little tolerance for a few more— "Months," groaned Mole, "the longest months of the year." "Are you all right, Uncle?" asked the most unwelcome guest. "You look gloomy to me." "Well, I'm not," said the mole ungratefully. "Well, you look it." There was a sudden flurry of sleety snow at the door, and Mole's home shook and stressed, and both the mole and his guest looked up in alarm. "Haven't you something better to do than talk?" grumbled poor Mole. "Nothing better than talking, especially on a night like this," said his nephew, leaning forward expectantly. Then, since Mole was not forthcoming, and thinking to encourage him to talk, the youngster continued after a pause, "Mind you, a winter night like tonight, when most creatures are too weak and frightened to go out, wouldn't worry you. Nothing scares you, I know that. Why, you could walk miles across the wild wood itself in the dark and blizzard winds and still save a creature who was in peril if you had to." "How many times do I have to tell you? I am not the mole you think I am," snapped Mole in exasperation. "I really am not the brave mole you seem to have heard of. I am just an ordinary mole." "But, Uncle, I know you are not an ordinary mole. Water Rat told me you were the bravest, cleverest, boldest mole he had ever met in his life. Mr. Toad declared that if there was one living creature he would want at his side in a moment of crisis, it was you, and even Mr. Badger, and everyone knows how wise he is, said, and I quote, 'There's only one mole, and no one is braver and bolder and better than he. So it's no good being modest, Uncle.'" The mole, who had the good grace to feel just a little flattered, though in his heart he felt that all these compliments were undeserved, wiggled his toes at the flames, and thought that perhaps, after all, he ought to try to make the best of things. "Well, I suppose if you have nothing else to do, you could make me a nice hot, slow and blackberry drink," he muttered. No sooner was it said than his young nephew was up and at it with that busy, clumsy, exasperatingly energetic way he had, clattering about in the kitchen, rattling at the hob, and, worst of all, humming happily to himself. The mole frowned again, scowled, and then, finally, smiled. He stared at the flames and felt his nose all cosy warm. He rested his paws on the arms of his comfortable chair. Brave? Not he. Bold? No, not really. Better? No, not so. "But as for Ratty," he said over his shoulder, "now there is a brave animal." "And Mr. Badger, too?" "Yes, certainly Badger's brave as well as wise, that's quite certain." "And Mr. Toad, he's brave." Mole laughed. "Toad brave? That's not a word I—"
Sample complete. Ready to continue?